The scope of what you are physically able to capture on camera has always had certain limitations. But we humans are devious little schemers who for thousands of years have absolutely insisted upon pushing the boundaries of what's considered normal and possible at the expense of our own souls. So we've never let that stop us. This is Instead of the Gifts, and today is going to be a short reflection on why would you animate something? As opposed to just shooting it live action with a camera, why would you animate it? The animation process for a feature film is absolutely tremendous. Because the first animated feature was Snow White in 1937, right? And at that point, in the mid-30s, there were already countless, feature films. The film industry was its own established thing, shooting live-action pictures long before we got Snow White. And what's interesting is to this day, Snow White is still, adjusting for inflation, the 10th highest top grossing film of all time in North America. 10th. That's pretty cool. Beats Avengers Endgame. And 101 Dalmatians is also on that list at number 12. Big dubs for animation in those early Disney years. 101 Dalmatians wasn't, I guess, crazy early, but still. 50s or 60s, I think. So why would you have entire buildings full of hundreds and hundreds of animators doing frames, doing paintings, doing the little cells, right? Why would you do that when you could just shoot a film? It was still complicated, especially in the early mid-20th century when you had to use real physical film and it was hard, and if you messed with it wrong, oh, you just lost your shot that they did a year ago on set. Oh no. The first most obvious reason you can kind of assume just by looking at what the early animated pictures were, some of the first animated features, right? Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi. What do those all have in common? Well, in the 30s and 40s, there's just not a way to shoot those live action. Like, practical effects are really cool and have come a long ways, but still, even no, you can't really shoot Bambi live action, right? You're gonna train a deer, you're gonna train a whole forest full of animals to do what you want, and then you're gonna dub it. You try. So it seems that early animated films knew what they were, and they knew what their strengths were. And they played into those, Let's have a movie about a puppet, a wooden puppet named Pinocchio, and he walks around because why not? It'll be cool, and we won't need any weird effects to make a puppet move, like if we did it live action, because we can just draw whatever we want, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We'll just draw 7 dwarves, So that's the first immediate reason, is you can get very fantastical, you can get very science fiction-y, you can really play with the imagination. And they'd get weird with it sometimes, skeletons, ghosts, nightmare. They would do that in the early days of animation. It's really weird. I can only imagine the directors and the animators in the early animation sort of projects kind of knew that they had something really weird and strange, and you could make anything come to life. And I think they definitely had some fun with it. Second thing, the bounds of your suspension of disbelief, the range of your suspension of disbelief that you're going to be able to get out of the audience is much broader. It's much more. But what I mean by suspension of disbelief, this comes down to creative things like if you're going to get funky with motion, with frame rate. Motion's a big one. So I saw a trailer. I believe it's Netflix producing a thing about Alexander the Great. I know I'm just the big, dumb, no fun guy. It just doesn't look good. And one of the shots in this trailer that they had was maybe a couple seconds. It just stuck with me. As I was preparing to do this video, I was like, hey, that's it. And it was a slow-mo shot of some soldiers charging, got all jittery, the frame rate slowed down. Maybe even not, even if they're shooting in a higher FPS and you can slow down and it's smooth. Not that it has to be, whatever. It looked bad. This is not Netflix. What? This is someone on YouTube making something for fun, which God bless them. You should do that. You should make stuff for fun and put it on the internet just because you love doing it. But when you see a big studio producing something and you see something bad slow-mo, I think, why are you putting it in your trailer? The point of this is that when you watch the slow-mo in 300, it's over the top. It's kind of goofy. It's dramatic, right? But you watch the slow-mo and you don't go, this looks bad. This is done bad. This is done bad. And, if you're there to watch an action movie and, have a good time and look at some dude's pecs, when you're watching the slow-mo, it's like, ooh, this is kind of cool. And then it speeds up and then it slows back down, right? The point of what I'm saying is, if you're trying to do something stylistic, like slow-mo in an action scene, and you do it wrong, it looks not bad. It looks terrible, I think, in live action. You can't try to be cool and funky and do slow-mo or do freeze frame or do whatever and be flippant about it. If it's not executed carefully, it can look very poor. And animation does not have this, because at no point in animation is there not some suspension of disbelief, right? Whenever you watch anything animated, if it's visibly 3D or cell animated or anything, there's automatically this, oh, I'm watching like something fake or something fiction or something creative, right? You're not there expecting the live action characters on screen, to adhere to the laws of physics, right? Well, what if you're watching a live action superhero movie? Okay, so then there's more suspension of disbelief, because superheroes are not real. It's of my theory in my head that this allows you to get away with a lot more. Like, an example I don't like to use, but I will, is anime. You can have characters, they can wind up their punch for 4 minutes before they release. It's over the top for a reason, and it's kind of goofy and whatever, but it's like, it doesn't matter. It's animated anyway. It's not real life. A real person wouldn't do that. That's not a real person. That's a drawing of a person. In anime, when a character does something weird and crazy and dramatic that doesn't make sense in real life, it's because none of it's real life. And if things just get too weird and confusing and silly, there's a point where you've lost the audience, right? But One Piece live action, I gotta be really quick about this or I'll talk about it all night. It looks terrible. You're lying to yourself if you think it doesn't. I've been watching scenes from it that are some of the more over-the-top scenes with things that work in animation, and then I watch it in live action, and I think I'm hearing fans say they like it. You're all in denial. Come on, man. Come on. It looks horrible. You can say it. It's absolutely poo-poo. Because when over-the-top, insane, fantastical things happen, and it looks like you're watching it happen to a real live-action person, it looks like a nightmare. It's not right. My stomach is like, ooh, I don't want to eat dinner now. But when it's an animated characters on a screen, it's like, aha, like he got really big and then his arm got really long. Cool. I'm not the voice of objective reason in this world, but like I am 100%. Like I'm 100% on the it looks grotesque, profoundly grotesque. The live action One Piece. Good grief. I don't mean to be mean. It's just like from square zero. Like it shouldn't have been made into a live action. It's not like they did it wrong. You can't make One Piece live action. I'm not saying this because I'm a fanboy and I'm butthurt. I like to also make fun of the anime. But in terms of a creative medium, because I love animation, One Piece is a good example of new goofy crazy things because it's animated. Try to do it live action. You shouldn't have. There's not a right way to do it. There's not a right way to do it. Don't do it. Stop! So slow-mo, holding pauses, right? The slow-mo example is like 300 did it right. This Netflix thing, it looked goofy. Anime messes with time a lot. The way in which characters hold in certain moments and then keep moving and then hold in animation absolutely does not adhere to literally how people move in real life. Great, awesome. Who on earth cares? It's not real at all anyway. When you look at a painting, do you think, well, in real life, the tree's leaves would be moving? No, you don't think that. That's stupid. You never experienced the world as one fixed frame, and yet paintings have been amazing and profound and affecting the world for thousands of years. Animation is to be fun and creative and represent things and concepts and stories that we interact with in real life in a different way. I'm running out of words to explain like why it is that animation and art can be good, it can be great when it doesn't try to perfectly align with the way in which real life, appears to you. A good animated story like Bambi aligns with reality. Now, you'll never experience talking animals, right? But it's the story elements are still useful to you as a person, right? That's the realistic part. The story, which is story and all, storytelling is for other videos. Storytelling is what needs to appeal to reality, needs to connect and be linked to reality. The visual way in which the story is presented to you absolutely does not need to. You can have stories about aliens and superheroes, and if the story represents and reflects how reality works, it's good. It's good art. There's plenty of movies that are very realistic, and the story makes absolutely no sense or just does not align with how the world works. So bleh. Maybe I'm a big old butthead and I just need to enjoy things. I don't know. I enjoy animation. And finally, the third little thingamajiggerino about animation that I really like is how archaic it is. What I mean by that is film, as in the industry of the motion picture has been around for 130 years. Animated pictures have been around, like features, as we know, have been around for not even 100 years. But just drawing something has been around forever, actual like culturally and religious, artwork being important to a society. You got a few thousand years of that. Did I say 130 years of the motion picture? I was thinking more like 130 years since animation was a thing. Oh, motion picture, yeah, it goes back long. I'm bad. I should really know my dates as someone who likes film and photography. It doesn't matter if motion picture is 300 years old. When painting and carving and drawing an image is thousands of years old. And all we've done is put a bunch of them in a row really fast. And it looks like the stick man is walking, And there's something about that that's interesting. Because like I said, like with the painting, with a stick man on a cave wall, whatever, you know that something real, something that you know and understand is being represented. But you're not looking at the thing. The way in which when you watch a live action movie today, or like a documentary, you it's almost like you're there. Like you believe that you're looking at what someone who was there literally would have seen, right? That's the idea of like a documentary shot, camera journalists that'll go into like war zones, right? And you're thinking like, this is what the soldiers saw. This is what the units on the ground literally saw. This is not a recreation. It's not like live action Avengers where, it's real people, but of course I know the superheroes aren't real. So when you're watching a documentary, it's like, you can be totally sucked into thinking that you're literally there in a way. It's just being recreated on your screen, but you're literally seeing actually what happened. Which, because of story, is not true. You can be seeing totally twisted narrative, right? You're just looking at something that is visually real, which who cares? It's cool. I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything. We've kind of made something visually, like when you can really capture something on camera, it's like that's how it literally happened. No, it's not. Certainly not anymore with AI, as I complained about for the last 2 weeks. But when you draw something, there's always that removal from reality. When you draw a picture, it's like, I'm looking at some graphene smeared onto a piece of paper, right? I'm being like that Redditor who's like deconstructing everything to prove a point. It's really obnoxious, I know. When you look at a landscape painting, while you're not seeing what the artist may have seen when he stood on that hilltop and looked over that valley and painted that thing, you're not at all seeing literally what he saw. You're seeing the same thing in a more pure sense. You're seeing the thing that he was trying to capture if the painter was successful. You're seeing the same thing that he saw in its beauty, in its essence, in its meaning. If you look at the painting and think this painting is beautiful, then the painter has successfully communicated to you the experience he was having. Are you seeing literally exactly what he saw? Of course you're not. Another person standing there on the same day would not at all have seen literally the same thing that he saw. There's a whole philosophy of subjective observation that argues about this. How do you know that your purple isn't my green and we just have the same word for it? But if you paint one frame, you can still communicate the experience that the viewer in real life literally had, or even at least just a very, very similar experience. That viewer can have that qualitatively similar experience many times over again, and many different people can have that experience. And that landscape and that sunset, that particular day will never happen again. But that painter has just shared it with maybe hundreds of thousands of people. Even if he was the only person to stand on that hill on that day in 1872 and paint that sunset on that landscape over that valley, he has just managed to pull in thousands of people and share with him that powerful moment he had of feeling like a human being standing on a hill in the wind in July as the sun's going down, and it's got him feeling some kind of way, and he captures it on canvas, and now other people can have that same experience. But is it literally the same? The important parts are the same, not the details, not the deconstructing down to the pixels, down to are you seeing the same shade of red? That kind of deconstructionism is stupid, and I've tried to only do it in a way which makes fun of the process or shows how absurd it is when you identify things just down to their parts. So the archaic, I call it archaic nature of animation, is it's just drawings moving really fast. You know that drawings aren't real. We all know that it's not real. It's not literally real life. But a story told by walking stick people or talking cartoon animals, right? The stories can still be important if, like the painter, right? If the essence of the story, if the essence of the experience that the characters are having is communicated properly to the viewers, then you can share experiences, then you can tell stories. And you can tell stories from different perspectives that you might not have been able to do in real life. So animated stories give us the ability to, again, if done right, like with any motion picture or any story or any work of art, if the story's done well, what you can do is present the essence of an experience or the essence of a story, of a narrative flow of characters overcoming obstacles, maybe butting heads, maybe encountering antagonistic forces. But the exact particulars of visually how that's being done can be done in so many, probably infinite ways. Again, it can be done with talking animals. It can be done with stick figures. It can be done with gosh darn talking cars. But the whole thing is so completely absurd. Like, cars don't have morals. Cars don't have friends. Cars aren't alive. But you can, as a human, still experience in a way which can still potentially, I don't know. I haven't deconstructed the plot of Cars, but I mean, it seems fairly wholesome. It seems like Lightning McQueen was kind of a piece of crap at the beginning, and by the end, he's kind of a swell guy, right? So you can still follow along a good narrative when what you're seeing on screen is not trying its hardest to perfectly, exactly capture how real life works. And I just think it's better in animation. I said this wasn't going to be is it better or worse than live action, and there I went and I did it. And I did it with One Piece too. One Piece is better animated. All of you know it. Okay, I gotta stop. Whenever we produce one of these throughout the month, the third Saturday of every month, hopefully they get a little more coherent, and they're about interesting topics. I do want to do some discussion about working with plots, about narrative flow, and how stories communicate ideas. Because as I've established in this, if the visual manner isn't the most important thing, what are good stories? What do good stories look like? How do we tell good stories? I'm not the person to teach you, but we can talk about it. There will be a new video next week, and this is, of course, instead of the gifts. Ooh. Oh, that's some good tea. I need me some tea because I have influenza.